My name is Andrea Gideon. I am the Financial Literacy Coordinator here at Springfield Technical Community College, and I was welcomed by MassMutual Federal Credit Union to come and talk Finlit stuff with you guys today. So I am actually going to be doing a four-part series with MMFCU. This is the first one, obviously. And today we're going to be focusing on financial goal setting. So to kind of break the ice, I have a question I'd like you guys to think about and pop in the chat, your answer or response in the chat, so I can kind of get an idea of where your head is as we begin. So the question I have for you is, what made you join today's webinar? And then another question, if you'd like to answer this instead, what's one thing you'd like to be better versed in regarding financial goal setting by the end of this webinar? So I'll give you guys a minute to think about that. But I am curious to see where people's minds are. Again, that first question is, what made you want to join the webinar today? All right, so we have one person that says preparing for retirement. Nice. I have ways to go, but I envy you. Another says join to learn about more about finances pre-retirement. All right. Ooh, we have someone saying that they are so close to financial freedom and just want to stay focused. I like it. I like that. Okay, so it seems like just a general understanding about financial freedom, which you're in the right place. All right, so as we continue, let's go to the next slide. So what's on the agenda for today? First, we're going to be talking about building a financial foundation. Secondly, creating financial boundaries, which for some can be more difficult than others. Also creating realistic financial goals, cultivating financial habits. All right, so let's get into it. So first, and for some of you, this might be like super basics, but it never hurts to revisit the basics, right? And another thing I always mention with my students when I meet with them, some people I meet with, are well off into their financial journey. But I always challenge them to like take it back to the beginning. You might think that you know where all your expenses are going and you don't really need to do a budget, but it's very eye-opening and telling when you sit down and do a budget and you realize, oh, the money that I thought was going into this is actually a lot more. So just some food for thought for you. So to get started, we'll start with setting benchmarks. You have emergency savings, automate your savings, and plug any spending leaks, right? So people tend to think that emergency fund is the same as a savings fund. And I just want to reiterate that those are two separate things. Emergency funds are typically for unexpected emergency repairs, like say your water heater goes in your home. That would be considered an emergency fund withdrawal, right? If you get into a car accident and need the money for your deductible, that could be considered an emergency fund withdrawal. Savings, I like to mention those to my students as those are like planned wants, things you want to do, but aren't necessarily a need or dire emergency to partake in or pay for. So taking a vacation, that's definitely something that you'd pull from your savings. Say you have a phone, the phone works, but picture quality is not so hot and you want better quality pictures. Well, the phone works, so it's not really an emergency that it be replaced. So that's something that would come from your savings fund. So hopefully those examples help to make sense of the difference between the two for you. Next, we have automate your savings. This is when you pay yourself first, as it removes the temptation of spending it all or not having enough at the end of the month to save. And it makes it easy for you to help save your, to automate your savings, right? Regarding automating your savings, my recommendation typically when it comes to that is do it with bills that stay consistently or relatively the same month to month. So a cell phone bill, typically stays the same every month. Even the water bill, well, at least in the winter, those typically stay the same month to month. Those are the bills that I would primarily tell people to automate. Um, so that way you have an idea in your mind of how much is going to come out from that account every month without having to worry about not having the funds in the account. And then third, plug up spending leaks. Basically, what that is when you create a budget for yourself, take a look at how you did at the end of the month and see if you're right side up or upside down. If you spent more than you brought in, you are upside down. And that's when you want to take a look at your spending to see where the leaks happen. Like, how did this come to where I spent more than I earned? And what can I do differently going forward for the next month to make sure that that doesn't happen again? Robbing Peter to pay Paul is not fun, and paying overdraft fees is also not fun. Um, so plugging those spending leaks will definitely help to reduce those things. All right, so we will move on to the next slide. So this one is titled Save Extra Money. And I was thinking about this as I was preparing for this webinar today. I was like, who has extra money nowadays with the cost of living and inflation and shrinkflation? I really don't know that there is such thing as extra money. But I would say to try and develop a habit of paying yourself first whenever you receive, I call it unexpected money. So whether that is an annual merit increase at your company, or sometimes you can apply for things like fitness reimbursement from your health insurance. That would be considered unexpected money. Tax returns, if it's higher than what you anticipate, that could be unexpected money. Make sure you do take that money, enjoy some of it, because it's not about being completely frugal to where you can't enjoy living, but make sure you take a piece off the top, pay yourself back first, and reinvest that, whether it be into your retirement portfolio, savings, emergency fund to help beef up those accounts. But make sure you do take some off the top to save first before spending in other ways that, I'm sure we all have to spend with. All right. So moving on to creating realistic financial goals. So in this section, we're going to talk about giving your money a job. And what that means is when you receive your paycheck, the best way to measure how you're doing and to create a budget for yourself is to ensure that every dollar you receive has a job. Now, that can sound very daunting because to me, it did at first as well. But once you master that, it gives you not only an idea to see where your money's going, but like how it's working for you too, and how it's not working for you. I know with the student that I was working with here at the college, we did it, and they couldn't believe that they were spending so much money at something as simple as Dunkin' Donuts. And I was like, well, at the end of the week, you've worked a whole shift or at the end of 2 weeks, because they got paid bi-weekly, but you worked a whole shift just to be able to buy coffee. When you kind of look at things from that different standpoint, it makes you really think like, wow, I should do something about this so that way I'm not spending my money so frivolously. So give your job a money basically allows you to make sure that at the end of the month, there's not a dollar spent that didn't have a specific function, so you know where your money's going. There are also other budgeting methods. There's the envelope method where you put your money in the envelope and only use what's in the envelope, and when that runs out, you're out. There's a couple of different methods, but we'll get more into that during the third webinar. So make sure that you come back and join us for that. It's going to be more of a budgeting focused webinar where we'll dive into the details about different methods and payoff options and that kind of thing. The next thing you want to do is categorize your goals. It can help to create or to categorize your goals into short-term, midterm, and long-term in order to reach them. Think about the difference between saving for a shopping trip versus saving for a wedding. Obviously, saving for a wedding is going to require a lot more funding, preparation. So when you categorize that, you break down your goals so that they feel more achievable. And then moving on to the third one, we have set a target goal date. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for me, sometimes creating dates, it can work in our favor, but it can also create a sense of anxiety. I don't know if that's just me. But on the other end of that anxiety, it does allow for you to make yourself accountable because you have a target date in mind for that goal and to stay focused with it. It also helps to create a sense of urgency, right? So you know that in saving for a short-term goal of taking a weekend trip away, you know that you're working towards that and you need to save for it to make better decisions in the present. And then it also helps to measure your progress. So if you do have, say, a long-term goal of, I don't know, taking a trip to Italy, as the months go by, you have the ability to see how you're doing month to month and making sure that you're on track with your goal. All righty. And then I want to stop and ask if anybody had any questions. Feel free to pop them in the chat. I can take a look at that as we go through and be sure that I answer those questions for you at the end. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So it's entitled Prioritizing Your Financial Goals. Different priorities include critical, need, or want, right? So for example, building an emergency fund is critical. Replacing a broken appliance is a need. Trading your car in that runs fine, well, that's definitely a want. So here's an interactive question for you. Does anybody know how to determine how much money should be in your emergency fund? If you do know the answer for that, let's take a second, have you pop it in the chat. I'm curious to see if you guys know. All right, so someone here said 6 months of pay. And the other person said ditto. Another is 3 to 6 months, 2,000 of your expenses, 3 months minimum. All right, so it seems like you guys are all on pretty much the same wavelength. So prior to COVID, it was 3 months of expenses was the recommended amount of money to save, both variable and fixed, obviously. Post-COVID, now that we've realized that you can be out of work for much, much longer than 3 months, the recommended amount is 6 months to have saved up for an emergency fund. And that money should be kept in a bank account that is more easily accessible than not, but not too easy where you want it like necessarily linked to your checking account, where you might be too tempted to transfer money back and forth. But you do want it to have relatively easy access in the event of an emergency. So 6 months is a recommended amount. Now, we have another question here. What is a good app to track your financial goals, expenses, income, etc.? Great question. I have used the YNAB app. That one's really good. NerdWallet has an app too. The Dave Ramsey, I can't remember the name of his app. I hear it's good. I haven't tried it yet. But that one I heard is really good. There's a few good ones out there to try that are free also. And they do have like a paid option as well. All right.
We also do have money management, which is built right into our online banking and mobile banking that can help with budgeting as well.
Yes, oh my goodness. Thank you for the reminder, Jackie. So if
Absolutely.
you've joined this webinar before in the past, I'm a huge, huge fan of the money management app within the MMFCU or the banking app. And it's really intuitive, super user-friendly. It has I guess you could call it I call it a cheese wheel. I don't know what the real name is for it, but it helps you break up your expenditures. It will auto-categorize things for you, allow you to recategorize things so you can see where your money's going. You can also link your other bank accounts, which I find super helpful. Because I know I use certain bank accounts for certain things. And the app with MMFCU allows you to add all those other bank accounts into one place, and it tracks the spending on those as well. So even if you spend on, say, another banking credit card or whatever for points, it will still track that expenditure into that category in the money management app, which is really nice. And you can set limits and thresholds to be reminded of when you're reaching your target amount, which is also really, really helpful to make sure that you're staying on track with your spending throughout the month. So if you haven't taken a look yet, definitely log into your app and play around with it. As I said, it's very user-friendly and super, super helpful in giving good information on where your money is going. Thank you, Jackie, for that reminder. And it's free because it's already built into your banking app. So why not try it, right? All right. So I do have a document that I will pass forward to Jackie if you guys are interested in looking at how to determine your needs versus your wants. I do have a document that helps break that up that she can, hand out to you after this call or the webinar, make it available for you guys as well. Oh, somebody's asking, can I list the recommended apps? Yes, I will forward that information over to Jackie so she can make that available for you guys. As well as, Jackie, do you have a walkthrough on how to access the money management tool?
I will provide all that information on our follow-up email.
Oh, perfect. Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So next, we're going to review some tips and tricks to help you reach your goals. So create visual reminders. So for some, that could look like a vision board. I hear it's very helpful as far as taking a look and seeing what your goals are on a daily basis, helps to reinforce your why on why you're saving and getting up in the morning to go to said job. So visual reminders is one way to do it. I'm super old school in that I like to write stuff down. Um, whether it be on a Post-it and you stick it on your mirror in the morning, or if you're like me, I have Post-its in my car, don't judge me on certain things that I'm working on. But you have that as well to write your goals down and make them visible, right? That's the main goal, is to make them visible so you see them repeatedly. Next is you want to be specific with your goals. The more specific you are, the more achievable the goal will feel and become. When you break it down, you're able to, what's the word? You're able to minimize what's the word I want to use? You're able to minimize how daunting, I guess, it might feel to make that goal happen. So be specific with your goals, makes it more achievable. And then make your goals measurable. So if you do have, for example, a long-term goal of, say, buying a house, break that down and make it so the first 2 months you're going to do research on how to improve your credit score. And then in month 3 or 4, you're going to work on getting pre-approved and finding out how much money you have to spend. From there, month 6 through 8, you're going to look at what area of town you want to live in and what the houses cost in that area. By making them measurable, makes it more attainable and helps you stay on track with being able to reach that goal, right? And then, as we mentioned before, giving yourself a deadline. It can be anxiety producing, but it also is super helpful in making sure that you stay on track to make that goal happen. All right. And then the big thing that a lot of my students ask me, well, how do I do all this? So cultivating the financial habits. First thing, biggest thing is making sure that you live within your means. It sounds like it's common sense, but it's not as easy for some as you would think it is. In this day and age where it's so easy to just tap your card or tap your phone to make a payment on something, it can be very, very easy to start living above your means without even knowing how much you have in your account. So be mindful of where your bank account lies and how much money you have in there, and ensure that you're living within your means. And if you're not, that's when we go back to what we've mentioned earlier about taking a look at your budget and plugging those spending leaks. Do you need to go to Starbucks every day? Can you dial it back and make it a Saturday treat? Is eating out at lunch necessary? Or can you cook at home and meal prep for the week? Those are super easy ways to mitigate your money going in places that, you don't intend for it to go. Next is focus on yourself and your family's financial needs first. This one also sounds like common sense, but it can be really, really hard to focus on yourself and your family when you have other family members that rely and need you and your financial support as well. But you can't fill someone else's cup before filling your own, right? So always make sure that you take care of home first, because without that, how can you really be there to help others? And that just sounds like another recipe for disaster of digging yourself in a financial bind or a financial hole that you can't get out of. So always make sure home is taken care of first, though I know it's easier said than done. Third is making financial plans to help avoid unnecessary debt. This means if you know your car is going to need a oil change or, spark plug changes or even a tire, new tires, plan for that ahead of time, which allows you to save accordingly, and make better decisions leading up to that planned event that needs to happen. Do I need to go to the movies this weekend, or should I save this money towards the tires I'm going to need after winter season's done? Making those plans ahead of time definitely will help reduce getting yourself into debt where you might have to then make that charge on a credit card because you didn't have it to pay upfront. Regularly review and update your financial plan. That's pretty much self-explanatory. Definitely want to take the time to update your plan. Things change, life happens. So make sure that you review that. Um, more so on like a monthly basis, depending upon your lifestyle and how many people involved, it may need to be more. And then lastly, it says create your budget and use it to guide your spending. And as we mentioned, we'll talk more about that in the third webinar, but budget is key to know where your money's going and where it's not going, that it should be going. Oh, someone says that I'm not showing the presentation. All right, is anybody else able to see the presentation?
That's weird. I'm seeing it.
I wonder if I should stop it and reshare it.
That might help.
Okay, just bear with me a minute here. I hope this just happened and you guys haven't been listening to me this whole time without the screen to follow along with. My apologies.
No, that's a recent thing.
Oh, okay, good. All right, so I reshared it.
It's back.
All right, awesome. So I will scroll back up if anybody wants to take a look. I'm not too sure what screen it went out at, but this is the screen prior to. We were talking about tips and tricks. All right, perfect. And then we had just finished cultivating the financial habits. Slide 7 was the last slide. Thank you for that, Rick. Appreciate it. All right, so then we are now going to move into the last slide, which is the contact us. So if you have any questions, this is a phone number, the website. Again, if you haven't taken a look at that money management tool, highly recommend it. And then if you need any support, they have an email address that you can message them with as well.
I just see some questions in the chat. Somebody had asked if the recordings will be sent, and they will be in the slides as well. And we'll be posting this on YouTube as well.
Thank you for the ISIS. Did anyone else have any other questions that I can try and answer for them today? All right. So I think we are pretty much done. This is probably one of the earliest or fastest webinars we've had. Hopefully I wasn't speaking too fast for anyone. And for those who were interested in the preparation towards retirement, I think I'm going to speak with Jacqueline offline to see if there's something that we can put together for you all in regards to that. That's definitely something that would be helpful for you guys. So Jackie, we should definitely talk about putting something on the books for that as well.
Great. And for everybody asking about the YouTube channel, I'm Isis. If you came late, but I'll be. Oh, Jackie put it in the chat. Perfect. You'll also be getting a follow-up email from me though, where I'll link everybody to the YouTube, the slides, and the recording.
Yes, and then I will get that information as far as the other apps that are available out there that I know somebody had asked about before. If you feel like paying for something and the money management tool within the app is not, enough.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you guys for having me. And I look forward to seeing you guys for the next webinar. Please be sure to check out the newsletter to keep an eye out for when that is going to be. And then meet me back here again.